Hey everybody, it's Rolly from Rolly Max Music, back with another in our series of videos with helpful hints and tips for various instruments. And this time we'd like to do a big shout out to the Willow Ridge Community Association, our proud sponsor of this series. Couldn't do it without them, and we have a long and wonderful relationship with them. Those of you who know us know that we've been in the Willow Ridge Community Hall for quite a while here. That's where our teaching studio is located. So we've been doing lessons in guitar, bass, keyboard, drums, voice, you name it, for I'm not even going to try to remember how many years we've been here. But something exciting that we've just started offering recently is online lessons. So if you can't make it to the community at Willow Park and you'd like to take lessons in any of those instruments, then just contact us at this number here, and we can set you up by Skype or Zoom or FaceTime or whatever works. But anyways, today we are going to focus on some lead guitar techniques, and most particularly on scale fingerings. Now, back in the day, when you learned to play guitar, you always learned in a method book, and they would teach you the notes on each string. So the notes on the first string, they would teach you E, F, G, and then you'd move on to the second string and learn B, C, D. So basically, it would be all of the notes in the C major scale, even though, unlike the piano where it's easier to play in the key of C because it's all white keys, on the guitar, anything that you can play, any fingering, is the same on any fret. But I think it was for the ease of learning how to read music. That's why you learned the strings in order. And then when you got to scales, they would still show you in the key of C. And so you would learn your C major scale like this. And for those of you who've seen the movie The Sound of Music, or even if you haven't, you might also know those notes as Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. So that usually was a guitar player's first experience with learning a scale. And that's fine to know those notes in the key of C, and they're in the open position, so you don't have to move your fingers past the first 4 frets. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit and explain the concept of the position in guitar. And most instruments have this concept, and that's where you're using your fingers in order on consecutive locations. So for example, on the piano, you would put your fingers on C, D, E, F, G, and then you're in a position, right? On guitar, we don't generally use the thumb for playing single notes. That would be a little bit awkward, but what we're doing is we're placing the fingers on consecutive frets. So fret 1, 2, 3, and 4. As a matter of fact, the most standard guitar technique exercise is called the chromatic dexterity exercise, and that features 4 fingers on 4 frets in a row, and so you get used to the coordination of the 2 hands working together and playing all the notes in order, and you get each finger treated equally. Now, with the concept of scales, though, we're not playing every note in a row. So a guitar position is different from a piano position that way, because in a piano position, we've got these 5 notes that are in a row, but there's these 3 black keys in between. Whereas with the guitar, there's no keys in between, so that would be white, black, and so on, right? So when we're playing scales, it'd be spaced out a bit. I'll do the C scale on 1 string so you can see what I mean. So our first note is C, then we have a whole step or 2 frets up till we get to D, another whole step or 2 frets to E, then a half step or 1 fret, consecutive notes here, to F, and then whole, half. And that's the formula for a major scale. We start with the root, then we do 2 whole steps, a half step, 3 whole steps, and another half. So in the open position, we are skipping over it, like there's open strings, and it's really hard to establish any kind of a pattern, although that's the first way you learn your scale. So what you usually learn after that is you learn how to play it in a position up the neck, and so it's movable. You can play in any key quite easily, unlike the piano where you have to account for the black keys. So if I were to play that C major scale on the 8th fret with C, if I were to use the traditional method, then I would line my fingers up on frets 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it looks like this. And then we go on to the next octave. Notice how we only have 2 notes on that string, and then another one there, 3 there, and then just 2 on that string. It's kind of confusing and hard to memorize. So what the logic is behind this method is that you're in a position where 4 fingers are in a row on 4 frets. But sometimes that's not the easiest way to visualize something like a major scale. So if we practice proper technique, and in going back to the first video in this series, the golden rule of technique is take the easiest way out all the time. So in order to practice that on the guitar, we start with the hands just falling off the wrists and totally relaxing, not moving a muscle, and you notice how the fingers are gently bent, but the thumbs are totally straight. And then we take that, in the left hand, we take that hand position and just flip it upside down, wrist angle and all, and then we can put all 4 fingers on the same string on the guitar. Now, if we're doing that position where our second finger, the middle finger, is on C on the 8th fret, if you look closely at my hand here, the other fingers don't naturally fall onto their frets. In order to get them that way, you see how I have to spread them a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to freeze that. Now I'm going to relax. Oh, okay, they moved. So it's best to keep your hands in a relaxed position, and then just by swiveling on your thumb like that, then you move them up and down, because they have to move a little bit to get to each fret. So if you're going to do that anyways, then why not go a little bit farther than the position of 4 fingers in a row and 4 frets in a row? And that's the system that has been more and more commonly in use recently. I first learned it from a great jazz guitar player. His name is Frank Gambale. They call him the Thunder from Down Under, because he's from Australia and he's one of the finest guitar players that country's ever produced. If you want to listen to him, he does a lot of solo stuff, and he's also recorded quite a bit with Chick Corea and his band. Okay, so his idea was that let's look for a pattern that's easy to memorize and easy to play, since we're going to be swiveling on the thumb anyways. So he came up with a system where there's 3 notes on each string. So instead of lining up the hand so that the fingers are on 8, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, and 11 for the key of C, or 7, 8, 9, 10 if you're going to start with finger number 2. We're going to use the root with finger number 1. So when you relax your hand, your second finger is across from the thumb. So let's put the thumb behind the 10th fret, and so it's easy on the pinky. The pinky gets the 12th fret, and the ring finger, or finger number 3, gets the 11th, middle finger gets 10, index gets 9, but it also gets 8, because if we're moving properly, we can go down a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 notes on each string, but the patterns work out to be very easy to remember. So the first pattern is called a stretch pattern, and what we're doing is we're stretching back. It's actually not a stretch. We're moving back so that finger 1 plays the 8th fret, then finger 2 is on 10, and 4 is on 12, and that's easy to play, even though we're covering a 5 fret span. It's still quite easy, so we do that. Now the advantage is we do the exact same pattern on the next string. Oh, well, that's easy. And then we're going to use the same 3 fingers, but now we're not going to reach back. We're just going to use fingers 1, 2, and 4, so we're going to call this a 1, 2, 4 pattern. And, well, lo and behold, 2 strings in a row on that. So now we've got 2 patterns that occur 2 strings in a row, and it's the same 3 fingers. So it's quite easy to shred and do all kinds of great stuff with that. Now here's where it gets just a little bit different. When we get to the second string, because it's tuned different, we have to move everything up a fret. So finger 1 now, instead of being on the 9th fret, is going to be on the 10th. And we have a 3rd fingering pattern. It's called a 1, 3, 4, named after fingers 1, 3, and 4. And of course, that repeats 2 strings in a row as well. So now by catering to logic that, okay, 3 notes on each string, and we got a pattern here where we repeat each pattern at least 1 string in a row, or 2 strings in a row rather. It's easier to remember and easier to play. So that's just a little hint to help you out if you're an aspiring lead guitar player. Practice your scales that way, and there's plenty of help online. Just Google guitar scales 3 notes per string, and they'll show you all the patterns, because of course there's 7 notes in the scale, so there's 7 patterns like that. So thanks once again for watching this video, and we hope you'll join us for some of our other videos. And until then, happy playing. And if you find that you want to pursue any of these concepts a little bit further, we'd be happy to help you out. Just give us a call at this number, and hope to see you and talk to you soon.